Hello, we interrupt your daily YouTube viewing for this breaking Disney news report here on Disney News with Disney Rod. As always, I'm your news anchor, Disney Rod, and today's breaking news report. California finally releases those theme park guidelines, but Disneyland still will not be able to reopen. For more on this, we go to our head field reporter, Disney Rod. Rod?
Thank you, Rod. Well, ladies and gentlemen, finally, the day that we have been waiting for months now has finally come. The theme park guidelines for California have finally been released by Governor Gavin Newsom, but it's not what we were hoping for. In fact, it's actually quite far from it. So let's start in the beginning. The parks were closed for months and months because of the coronavirus pandemic. And then in July, Disney World was finally able to reopen. Now, Disney did come up with a plan for Walt Disney World, but at the same time, they also came up with a plan to let Disneyland reopen. Now, the plan for Florida was obviously approved, and right now the parks are open and operating. But that plan for Disneyland was shut down by the governor, and since July, we really haven't heard anything else about the theme parks reopening or even the theme park guidelines passed by the governor himself. Now, there's been a lot of going back and forth, basically like a war between Disney and California to allow the theme parks to finally reopen and to pass those guidelines. And today, we finally received those guidelines, but let's get into that. So today, California did release a 20-page report giving all the guidelines in order to allow the theme parks to reopen. But let's go into that. So right now, California has like a 4-tier system for determining how bad the coronavirus is in certain counties. And so the first tier is widespread. That is where the positive tests are more than 8%. Substantial, you're looking at 5 to 8% of the positive tests. In the third system, which is moderate, you're looking at 2% to 4.9% of the tests come back positive. And then minimal, you're looking at less than 2%. So the first part of this report, right, it shows the first 2 tiers, all theme parks are going to remain closed, right? In tier 3, small theme parks are going to be allowed to resume, and then they give you the different guidelines that they're supposed to follow. So first thing is that smaller theme parks are those that have a capacity of 15,000 or less. Then it says that the capacity must be limited to 25% or fewer than 5,000 people, whichever one is less. Also, ticket sales have to be limited only to visitors of the same county that the theme park is from. And then finally, it says that all the theme parks have to operate with the guidelines that are being given, and that they're also going to be inspected by public health officials randomly. Then you move down to tier 4. This is when Disneyland would be allowed to reopen. All it says is that the capacity must be limited to 25%. Capacity in indoor dining and drinking establishments within the park has to be limited to 25%. And again, they have to follow all the guidelines put into place by this report, and also that they will be inspected by public health officials randomly. So in the rest of the report, they do give a lot of guidelines that the theme parks need to follow. Face masks are going to be required, social distancing, like you need to keep the guests 6 feet apart. You need to install plexiglass in between all those switchback lines, so those lines that kind of loop back, that you need to put the plexiglass in between, limit contact. Another weird one that they have here for physical distancing is that all queues need to be outdoors, even indoor rides. So if an indoor ride has an indoor queue portion, you're not allowed to queue in there. You will need to create an outdoor queue for that ride, which is going to be interesting to see. I want to see how Disney does that, but I trust that they will be able to do it. So it is a 20-page report, and there are a lot of guidelines that the theme parks do need to follow. There are also a lot of recommendations that the government of California gives to the theme parks to keep into consideration. But there are a lot of things that I find a bit unreasonable at this time. And the biggest one is the fact that in order for Disneyland to open, Orange County needs to fall into that 4th tier. So as of right now, Orange County, which is the county that Disneyland is in, has a positivity rate of 3.2%, meaning that Disneyland will not be allowed to reopen. And the biggest problem with that is that we don't know when Orange County is going to be able to drop down to 2% or under, which would allow Disneyland to reopen. And even if it goes down to 2%, it needs to stay there for 2 whole weeks before it is considered and officially placed in that 4th tier. So as of right now, we don't know when Disneyland's gonna reopen. It could be as early as November. It could even go all the way up to 2021 without reopening. And that's completely unreasonable. Now, these guidelines were released, and trust me, criticism was not that far away. The first statement that I did want to focus was a statement released by the president of Disneyland, Ken Potrock. He says, "We have proven that we can responsibly open with science-based health and safety protocols strictly enforced at our theme park properties around the world." Nevertheless, the state of California continues to ignore this fact, instead mandating arbitrary guidelines that it knows are unworkable and that hold us at a standard vastly different from other reopened businesses and state-operated facilities. Together with our labor unions, we want to get people back to work, but these state guidelines will keep us shuttered for the foreseeable future, forcing thousands of more people out of work, leading to the inevitable closure of small family-owned businesses, and irreparably devastating the Anaheim, Southern California community. Then Aaron Guerrero, the executive of CAPA, the California Attractions and Parks Association, called it a keep theme parks closed indefinitely plan, attacking it and calling it completely unreasonable. And the last statement that I wanted to focus on, it was actually the first statement that I read. I didn't read the statement yet from Disney. I didn't read the statement from CAPA. It came from the mayor of Anaheim himself. Now, the mayor of Anaheim came out and said, "These guidelines fail working families and small businesses. As painful as this is, Disney and the city of Anaheim will survive. But too many Anaheim hotels, stores, and restaurants will not survive another year of this. Many are family businesses. The jobs they provide support other families. We can safely and responsibly open our theme parks and convention centers soon. The unions of the Disneyland Resort agree and support the reopening of the theme parks in Tier 3, not Tier 4, which would wipe out jobs in our city and destroy lives." Now, these three statements that have been released, I agree with them. I believe that the governor of California, Gavin Newsom, he's being completely unreasonable with this reopening situation. I believe that, a lot of these guidelines are reasonable, a lot of these guidelines are necessary, but there are just some that are completely unreasonable and will drastically affect thousands of lives of Californians and the economy of Southern California. The chief medical experts of Disney, along with medical experts of Orange County and many other different people, have come out saying that California should allow Disneyland to open at Tier 3. This would allow thousands of people to go back to work, start generating a lot of cash flow into the Southern California economy, and not destroy countless amounts of lives. But Governor Gavin Newsom seems to turn a blind eye to all of this. He refuses to see Walt Disney World and how it operated successfully and safely, keeping in mind the safety of the guests along with the entertainment and allowing the economy to not suffer that much and bring back thousands of jobs. He also refuses to see the thousands of lives that are being affected by these closures and his incapability of passing guidelines that would allow them to return back to work and to allow family businesses to finally reopen. So I wanted to focus on these two facts that were released about a week or two ago. So Brady McDonald, he's an economic analyst from California, from Orange County, came out saying that since the closure, Disney has lost $2.2 billion in revenue. So in Cal State, Fullerton's Woods Center for Economic Analysis and Forecasting added on top of that report, saying that Disneyland brings in $8.5 billion annually to the Southern California economy, and that since the closure, the Southern California economy has been losing as much as $23 million per day. I mean, that economic impact is brutal. Over $20 million a day lost in the Southern California economy alone. That's beyond brutal, and that is going to take years and years and years to come back from. And again, Governor Newsom kind of doesn't seem to care, or he just refuses to look at that fact and continues to push these guidelines that would keep these businesses closed and continue to allow the economy to suffer. And it's not just the economy, but thousands and thousands of people's lives are being affected by this. Many people are going to lose their businesses. A lot of family businesses, small businesses, they're just going to be run out of business. A lot of people are going to suffer. I don't understand why Governor Gavin Newsom couldn't just pass the guidelines that would allow these businesses to reopen safely and allow them to keep their businesses, allow these thousands of people that have either lost their jobs or are in furlough to return to work. I honestly find it unacceptable. Yeah, I know I just kind of went on like a super long rant there. I guess, my shirt kind of makes sense. This is exactly how I feel. It's just irritating to see that thousands of lives are being affected by this. it just sucks, you know. So what comes next? Well, now Disneyland's gonna have to take into effect all of these guidelines. First off, they're gonna have to wait until Orange County drops under 2% positivity rate in order for them to reopen. They're also gonna have to take into account all of the guidelines and accommodate their theme parks in order to allow guests to safely return. They're gonna have to bring back their workers, train them again. It's gonna be a long process. My prediction, I don't see Disneyland opening until December, maybe even next year. It's brutal, these guidelines, and it's uncertain. No one knows when Disneyland's gonna be able to open yet. So yeah, now it's just the waiting game until positivity rates in Orange County drop down to under 2%. Disneyland prepares, and we'll see when it opens. Let me know in the comments below what you think about all of this that's been going on, and whether you think the governor of California is being unreasonable or not. I would love to hear from you. Also, if you enjoyed today's video, smash that like button and hit subscribe. I upload a brand new video every Wednesday. Thank you for being part of the Disney family, and see you real soon. Good night.